Now share the invitation with me so that I can also start sharing in the group. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, for joining. Thank you for joining on the Learning Conclave, enhancing capabilities to create resilience. We are in the process of letting people get into the meeting, and that's why we are waiting for 2 minutes. We'll be starting our session shortly. So just kahin jayega mat, just stay with us. In just a matter of few minutes, we start.
Shall we start?
Yes.
Maybe 2 minutes. You put in the invitation link.
So I have posted on Facebook.
Yeah. All right. So warm welcome to all the guests on Learning Conclave, enhancing capabilities to create resilience. Thank you so much for joining us and supporting us for last 7 months now. Let's talk about our team. So you are already familiar with most of our team members. However, I'm again introducing all my team members to you. That's Mudita, Vishnu, the sales consultant, Madhav, the global HR consultant, and me, Ashutosh Sharma, your host for the day. We bring in 2 sessions a week, which is Leaders Insight on Tuesdays and Knowledge Fiesta on Superb Saturdays. The Leaders Insight session, the peeping inside a leader's mind so as to learn the recipe of success. It is not the recipe by Sanjeev. It is recipe by the leaders of our industry, which is not for the food, but food of thought for everyone's to grow. Okay, in sponsors for today's webinar, and let's thank all of them. This is 4S, the Khadiji, and the Electronics for You are the sponsors for this webinar. We really thank them for their support and faith and conviction in us that they really felt that yes, this platform is providing some value to them, and that's why they chose to support us in this event. So thank you so much, sponsors. And let's bring us to the leaders inside, the speaker of the day, Mr. Amit Francis, the ex-vice president of JK organization and working as a consultant now and helping so many young leaders of today. Well, if I were to talk about Mr. Amit Francis, the person who started his career with selling sewing machines and selling consumer durable items. From there, he went into absolutely different industry, selling engineering products and generators and high-end machines. And that was not it. He moved on from there and he joined one of the biggest organization in Indian market of that times. And even today, they are one of the leaders in their own businesses, JK Industries, JK organization. And Mr. Amit Francis was actually heading Umang Dairies, the dairy venture of JK Industries, the JK organization, and which has gone on to do a very big business, become a big identity within the JK organization. So, dear friends and ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and welcome our speaker for the day, Mr. Amit Francis. Amit sir, over to you.
Good afternoon. Namaste to everybody. Uh, I am not getting my visual on my screen.
Yeah. Sir, just 1 second. Vishnu.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir. You're back now online. Yes.
So, namaste and good afternoon to everybody. We have been interacting in between while various conclaves have been held. Now, Ashutosh, Madhav, and Vishnu have been Very nice to invite me. And it's a pleasure for me to be here to talk to you, share with you my experience of past as well as during the last 6 months and my impressions of what I feel are going to be the governing factors in the coming months. Now, I got a very nice introduction by Ashutosh. Just to amplify that a bit, I started my career with DCM as a trainee. This is way back in the years 80. And as a trainee, the system there was that, you had cross industry experience for 2 years, and we were sent to all the company, the group factories to learn the commercial aspects, the production aspects, as well as the selling aspects. So I've gone through, fertilizers, soap, textile, light engineering products, irrigation products. And that was a very, very learning experience for me. And then I moved on and was adopted by Usha International Limited, which was at that time one of the largest and one of the best consumer durable firms. And subsequently, I worked there at various levels as a regional manager. I had exposure to many states: Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, UP, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar. And then I moved on and I joined Kirloskar Cummins, who were into power generation equipment. And that was the time when Sam Pretodia was on to the job of the C. Dot program of Rajiv Gandhi. And there was a lot of requirement of power generation equipments, for their various sites. So there I was as zonal manager North, and then I wanted to move back to Delhi. So I rejoined Usha International as the marketing head for their engineering division. And I was with Usha International for about 2 years. And then I found that, there is an opportunity for me to improve my learning curve by joining one of the ICE industries or FMCG. The ICE was information, entertainment, and communication. But I got an opportunity with an FMCG business of JK organization where they wanted a business head to run their foods business, which included dairy as well as other food products. So that's I've been there. I worked there for about almost 17 years and retired. And now I have my own advisory firm, and I assist uh, Ashutosh Vishnu as well at times. So now I've been asked to speak about what has been the experience of the last 6 months, the change that have taken place in the workstations and the domestic personal levels. Talk about leaders need now for what are the changes that are going to impact the businesses, essentials for the readiness, leadership's role, how critical is it? What would be the role of HR? How critical is HR in this? What are the uh, instruments which would be required to bring about this radical, I would say this is a radical change, uh, transformation that is taking place in our day-to-day working in the organization as well as in our personal life. Now, I call it this a major disruption. This COVID-19 has been a major disruption. It has brought a lot of disruptors into our lives, whether it is our workstations, our workplaces, our businesses, our organizations, or our personal lives. And this was something which we never foresaw. One never ever dreamt that this is what is going to happen. So when this COVID-19 came, the government had a very tough call to take. And that was whether they should go in for a lockdown or not. So it was something like, it was livelihood versus life. And I think the call taken by the government at that moment was right, because we were still not prepared for what is how the healthcare is going to take care of this challenge. And then that's the reason why it was so implemented so fast that we all were caught unaware. And this brought about a lot of changes in our lives. If you look at it from the perspective of work, the disruptors were that the production, the manufacturing, everything stopped. Business halted. Travel could not happen. Railways were shut down. Airlines were shut down. The roadways were shut down. Metros were shut down. Dhabas, the small and medium-sized industries, were the worst affected because they did not have the working capital or the reserves with them to take care of, the next, I would say even the next 45 days or 1 month of lockdown. The large companies did have the reserves and the strength to fight back. This also resulted in, a lot of migration that took place because people were jobless. And the first migration that happened was of the people who were daily wage earners. Now, some of them, most of them during the lockdown, because of the curfew that was imposed, could not travel and move around, and also the facilities to travel and move around were not there. So they somehow the other, the doles of the government, the grain distribution, the NGOs that were working, the employers also for some time took care of them. And they were able to stay put for about a month or so. But thereafter, when the NGOs and the fatigue factor came in, these daily wage earners were left with nothing. And they had no other option but to go back to the villages and, at least the basics would be available to them. In some of the cases also, I saw that the families were separated. A gentleman was traveling outside and the lockdown happened and he couldn't come back. In the good part is that, some of the people who came visiting their families, right, were stuck with their families and they couldn't go back. So this type of disruption generally happened. Financially also, there was a lot of disruption. Right, organizations were stuck with the bills, receivables, money that was going to come in, cash flow got affected. Uh, Industries, the work in progress was impacted. The finished goods that were lying with them were stuck. The raw material that had been procured was stuck. There's some perishable raw material industries that had raw material which was perishable incurred huge losses when their raw material expired on the way. So there was a lot that happened during that time, you know. There was also a lot of disruption that happened in the way you do business because everything came to a halt. But one of the things I noticed initially when the lockdown happened was that the people who took advantage were the retailers, whether it's a chemist, whether it is a kirana shop, or whether it is any other service that was available and allowed during the lockdown period to operate. These guys made a lot of money. I remember I wanted to have another oximeter with me. The earlier one, I bought it for some 800 rupees, probably a year and a half ago. And I thought that let me get a new one. So, you know, maybe the earlier one is not working because I did not use it. So the new one, and I asked my chemist to give me the new one, and I was told that it is 2200 rupees. And he said, ठीक है हम आपको 1800 में दे देंगे. And I had to buy it. So these are the MRP was non-existent. Right? People were selling things much higher than MRP, and they were creating an artificial shortage. And we also panicked, and I did that also. That I started, you know, stocking up. And I just went to the departmental store, which is near our apartment block. And whatever I could see, I was, you know, buying in bulk. Because I thought that, you know, the supply chains are not going to work. So I bought, you know, like stuff like milk powder, because I said milk is the daily item that is required. Then I bought a lot of Maggi, a lot of other stuff. And I also stocked up, and these guys took advantage. I'm sure so did a lot of you all do that. Now, these were disruptors in general. Work-wise, one of the biggest disruptor was the work from home concept, which we Indians were not familiar. We had our regular routines. We would get up in the morning, get dressed, and go to the office, spend the day in the office, work probably depending on the level or the type of urgency, work late in the night, come back, and our interactions with our children was minimal, with our family was minimal, and the family had total space, you know, the whole day was without me. And now suddenly the change happened that I am there present in the house 24/7. And I couldn't even go out of my house. So what happened was that the way I look at it is, what happened was that there was now a house which was overcrowded. And if your wife was also working, then work from home was for you, for your wife, right? So you needed two different places to work from. And then when the vacations got over, the educational institutes went online. So the kids had to be, given space from where they could study and the online courses. So that was a big challenge, and the show of the house should go on. So now this also had a financial impact because most of the houses were basically had configuration of software, hardware, or net with based on their domestic requirement. But when suddenly this happened and you're working from home, nobody could use your on the television and watch Netflix because you were online, and you had to upgrade. You have to upgrade your software, hardware. Uh, then the children's education, you had to buy them smartphones or iPads and all that stuff so that these children could study. So there was a financial angle also to this, for a workplace. The balance of life, I would say, has become. I think now people have become comfortable now because it has been 6 months of lock-in at home, and the family has also realized that the bread earner now has to earn the bread from the house. I workplace Work-wise, I don't think this work from home concept is going to wither away very soon. In fact, it is going to increase. Organizations are going to have offices. Their offices may not be that large. Their offices may not be that huge. And some operations may be allowed to work from home, which are not relevant as such in the office. So that is going to result in also the real estate prices coming down, as well as the rentals coming down. So that is going to impact people who have invested in these areas, people like us, uh, where now we don't foresee higher prices or escalating investment values. Now, this lockdown has also brought another change. That change is the concern for our health. And this has resulted in a lot of people going in for insurances. People who are not covered by medical insurances, people have gone in for insurances. And this is one industry, insurance is one industry which has done wonderfully well. Because a lot of people, when they saw the news in the papers saying that, it's 5 lakhs of rupees for a COVID admission in a private hospital, these guys are going to bleed you dead. So people started going in for insurance policies. So, and travel as well, with no travel, people who are used to traveling, it was quite like for example, people, sales guys and business guys who would travel 10 days, 12 days a month. No, they were used to, one-is-to-one discussions and personal, building personal rapports and having personal interactions, were not able to do so. And at many levels, the interaction was also not possible because the other party was not uh, using technology or was not trained to use technology. Like most of the salespeople, the lower levels of the hierarchy were not computer savvy or were not technology savvy, and they did not have even the basics available with them. So things changed absolutely. Review of businesses where you had a one-is-to-one discussion with your regional manager or your group of regional managers or general managers, and discuss one-is-to-one what is happening, etc. It all vanished. Now it was one-is-to-one, but on the virtual world. Now this had a major impact also at the personal level. Like I said, that the uh, home life balance, the space balancing at home was one of the disruptions that happened. There was insecurity whether the job will be there or not be there. There was a lot of anxiety of people who were very uncertain how they would pay their loans, pay their installments with pay cuts, with no jobs. So uncertainty, all this tension, financial tension, we have been a our society has been a consumerism society, and we have been lapping up products and buying them on installments, short installments, long installments, going in for high luxury items and all. And families, a normal family is loaded with, deferred payment cost, which they have to pay every month. People who lost jobs, their savings started getting depleted. Investments went for a six. Stock markets has plummeted. Investment, people who made investments in shares as well as in mutual funds had a setback. Real estate, people who made investments there had a setback. And of all these things, the most critical sign that I see at a personal level is the uncertainty and the high level of anxiety that people are having. I meet a lot of youngsters and I interact with them. And they, though they are optimistic, we Indians are very optimistic as such. Chalta hai attitude is working. You can see it evidently because now you see a lot of people without masks roaming around. You know, so now this work from home culture is, I feel personally, that it is going to remain for many of us. But what I find that is most, what I find which is most critical, I'm so sorry for this disruption, uh, is that now things are going to be more on the virtual world. Online shopping has picked up, and they're doing very well. It's not that mom and pop stores and the general stores are not going to survive. They are going to survive because the mom and pop stores have a different client base and they have a different business model. But what I find is that now the changes that are going to happen is that organizations who earlier had not invested very heavily in technology or in having given importance to the IT teams that they had, right, are now re-looking at their entire technology upgradation plans as well as the manpower plan, because now you have to have a large IT backup team to ensure that everything runs smoothly, because everything is now going to be monitored for at least some time uh, through the virtual world.
So,
This is
Mr.
another.
Francis, yeah, Mr. Francis, so there are some more questions which are coming from the audience.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So what we can do is now we can also start with the answering them. You know. So, for example, one of the question is, what are the typical dilemmas in today's leadership would be having? And because these leadership people who have occupied these positions today, some of them are from the old school of business, the old school of thoughts. Some are the young dynamic leadership people. But what is the dilemma they all will be going through at the moment? And then what should be the solution to it?
See, the dilemma of the leaders is number one is that what has happened, right? And how do we correct it? Whether it's an old generation manager or it's a new generation manager. Both of them are going to have this first question in their mind, that what has been the impact and what are the solutions to overcome this impact. So I think a lot of introspection, like leaders would need to do a lot of introspection on where their businesses are now, and look at it in a holistic manner, not only look at the production part of it, but the whole business, including finance, and where are we with the finances, how long can we, what is our staying power, what is the availability of raw material, what is the demand going to be like now, and what is the demand like to be in future, plan for that. And then the sales organization, then the uh, motivational level, inspirational levels of the people, because businesses are run by people. A leader doesn't run the business alone. So he has to consider people also, very important. Now, I personally feel that, leaders will have to adapt to the change, whether it's an old generation leader or a new generation leader. Now, you see, a leader, a very successful leader is a leader who is able to change his style. Now, normally, a leader who can change his style depending on what the requirement is what we call successful. There are times when you have to use authority, you use authority. There are times when you need to be participative, you need to be participative. There are times when you need to delegate. Because let me give you a small example, for me, I was not very, very good in finance and in understanding the various ROCs and all that. I was not very comfortable in purchase. But then I got into details and I understood the whole business of these verticals. But I got good people in those positions so that I don't have to waste my time. For example, in one of your, I think the one with Debu that you were talking about, there some of the old managers get printouts and they are not very comfortable. I was one of them. I had a laptop on my table, but I didn't use it. My secretary always did my job, and I was more comfortable with hard paper. Before I go to a meeting, my instructions were very clear to my team was that one day before, I need your presentation with me so that I go through it and I make my notes. And I was able to grasp it better when I would see it. I would be able to analyze it better when I would see it. Right? My mind would work on the process that is being shown to me. And that's why, and I did not feel, you see, there were so many things for me to do that I did not feel that, I need to spend time in learning all this stuff and neglecting things that are more important. So my reliance on my secretary was there, and I was an old-time manager anyway. So I did upgrade, I did do a lot of learning. I went through a lot of leadership programs, coaching programs, competency mapping programs, etc. But leadership, like I said, the styles are very important, and the right style at the right time is very important. If managers, whether it's old or new, they have to change their style of management. There is a time when you need to be an activator. There is a time when you need to be a motivator. There is a time when you need to be a developer. There's a time when you need to be an innovator. There's a time when you need to be a stabilizer. Now, stabilizing time is gone. You have to somehow or the other activate your business, develop your business, right? And look at new opportunities that are coming to you. And that innovation can only happen when you are able to spend time in trying to understand where the consumer is going. What are the new needs that are cropping up at the consumer level, whether it is food items, whether it is usable items. Now, for example, let me ask a question to somebody, to all of you, is that which was one of the products badly impacted during the last 6 months, which was a cosmetic item? Any questions? Sorry, any answers? Should I tell you? Okay, makeup is one. Renal says makeup. Yes. Wives didn't want to look very nice at home.
Hair dyes.
Hair dyes, right? Yes, that was one of the items. But the hair dye is used not on a seasonal basis, but it's used around the year. Now, let me tell you that, this was sunscreen.
Ah.
Sunscreen is a product which is the peak season for sunscreen is during the months of April, May, June. Right? Then comes the winters when the sun is again very, or if you're traveling up the hills. This industry took such a bad hit that it had stocks lying at the plants. It had the entire supply chain had stocks which were stuck. And now this company, what did it do? Some of the companies who were in this, they immediately took advantage and they saw that sanitizers and face masks and these type of items are being uh, needed, and the demand is very high. The supply is not very good. These guys got into sanitizers. Whether they started manufacturing it or whether they started procuring it and packaging it and shoving it through their distribution system is whatever was done. But it was a good way that these guys were innovators and they were able to work through. Some of them were not, and they are in trouble. So leaders, I would say that now leaders need to be very, very agile about the environment. They need to be on the lookout of what is happening. They need to take care of their people. They need to get into details of their business and see how innovation can be brought into it. They need to bring technology because technology is what is going to drive business. The days are over when technology was a part of the business. Now the business technology is the whole business, I would say. Include people in your thought process. Form teams, get teams cracking down, give them projects, get them to ask, because marketing is going to be a different ball game, sales is going to be a different ball game. Today, with the scare of COVID, most of the companies are not sending their salesmen into rural areas. So therefore, what has happened is that the direct link with the retail has been broken. And now the supplies are going through the wholesale. And the wholesaler will ask his pound of flesh. So the margins that you were giving to the retailer, a part of the margins the wholesaler is now asking for. Sorry. So every aspect of the business, the leader will have to, really, he has to be a visionary, and the values that these guys had earlier, they must maintain those values get going now, because now with the uh, lockdown getting gradually opened up, the economy is going to open. For example, we got the figures of the last quarter, GDP was down 24%. That means against normal business, there's a 24% decline. That means from now onwards it's going to grow, and that 24% is going to recover. So there are opportunities. And there have been mortality, business mortalities have also been there. So a lot of companies have perished. So there is a gap that is going to be there. You see, there is an opportunity that is going to be there. And I think leaders now should start looking at uh, transformation. Leaders should start looking at new ways and new processes how to do business. Drive their HR colleagues to look at new ways and processes, evaluations, productivity. How do you evaluate whether this guy was productive during the quarter or not? He is no longer working in the office. We earlier used to have an annual appraiser where there used to be a 360-degree review system. Now there's going to be no 360 review. The virtual world is not going to review that whether you clocked in so many and you were productive during your time that you spent. So HR will also have to look at remunerations will change. The remunerations will have to change and will have to be redrawn. People would require larger houses, right? If they have to work from there, they would require one room to which would become their workplace. So rent entitlements will go up. People don't have to commute. They don't have to drive. Petrol consumption will go down. Wear and tear of vehicles will go down. Companies would need to move those allowances to other allowances, which is going to facilitate the person from working from home, buying, upgrading his hardware and software and stuff like that.
So, Mr. Francis, so here is one important point. Can you cite example of some of the leaders around us in today's time who you think have adapted so very well with this changing time?
Well, I think in terms of the large enterprises, I think all the large enterprises have done fairly well. And well in terms of absorbing the shock, not in terms of their top line or bottom line, but in terms of absorbing the shock, taking care of their people. Some of the organizations, yes, who have been short-sighted have, tried to cut on human resource cost, which on a long-term basis is not a good decision, to my mind. That's what I feel. And I think Tatas have done well. Tatas have done well. The new industry, the service industry has done well. Your online Amazon has done very well. Swiggy has done well. Your all these companies have done very well. So therefore, the companies who have done well are the companies who have been innovators and initiators. Taking right action and they've been close to the customer. You know, they've understood what the customer needs, when he needs it, and how to deliver it to him. So that has been some of the successful enterprises that I have not ventured out much, so I really won't be able to give too much of a detail on this. But yes, people who are online, who are ready online, who connected to online have done well, whether it is Amazon and the companies who were linked with Amazon on online service. They all continue to do well.
Sure. In fact, very interestingly pointed out by you that certain aspects of like what changes are we expecting, and you already mentioned. For example, the salary structure has to change, and some of the heads have to interchange. Maybe the allowances earlier were given on family welfare might have to go towards health more, and the person needs to look for a bigger house so that he can accommodate office in house itself. So those things which have to be looked into, and very beautifully and wonderfully brought up points by you, like even on personal life, day-to-day lives, right? And a very important point you highlighted is if your husband and wife both are working, you need two separate places in the same house. So how do you separate them out? So those are some of the challenges which this upcoming leadership has to also understand and look through, because as you very rightly brought out a point that it's not going anywhere or anywhere, because this is something which is going to be integral part of our life from here on. So no leader can sit and rest on its laurels and say it's only a matter of 1 or 2 months and we will be back to the same old fashion. Now the life will no longer be same, as you just rightly said. Okay, so what we can do is we can just take a very quick break of a few minutes. You can also catch up with a glass of water or your lost breath, and we will be back soon with the live question answer session.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Vishnu, can we have the slide, please? So this is for our audience that you can follow us live on in LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. You can also catch up with our previous sessions and get to know about our future upcoming sessions. Connect with us on a social media platform, interact more with us here, and there will be surprise gifts coming up on that. So if people watching these sessions on the social media platform today, if go for the session today and put up the questions there will be some surprise coming up there as well. Today, there's a sponsor's message. So we will play this small video, which is a sponsor's message for you today. All right. So thank you for our sponsors to support us. This is a very interesting concept by a very young girl who's been nominated as first 30 young 30 by Forbes, Umang Sridhar. And she runs this company based out of Bhopal, where she is closely working with a lot of artisans based out of Chhattisgarh and Chindwara. And when she is promoting khadi as a fabric to be used by all of us. And recently they've started with the concept of converting one day in a week to a khadi day, when everyone in the office will be wearing only something which is made out of khadi. And some of the pictures shown where Central Bank of India employees have taken one day, which is Friday, when they all wore khadi dresses. So like that, she's promoting Atmanirbhar Bharat, go local and be vocal. That's what also she is promoting by this initiative. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we're back to this today's session, and it's time for us to ask our questions to our speaker today, Mr. Amit Francis. Please go ahead. You can show your thumb so that we know that you are the one who wants to ask the question. So if you show your thumb, we can pick up the thumb and ask you to unmute, switch on your video, and I'll let you ask your question. Go ahead. Renal Sony to everyone. Yeah, please, Renal. Go ahead. Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello,
Yeah, Renal. Hi, welcome. Please go ahead.
hello, sir. I do work as a management professor,
Yeah.
and I came to know about this webinar from a WhatsApp group that's HR Chat, and I also attended the last webinar, which was also very much informative. And thank you for organizing such kind of webinar so that on Tuesdays or Fridays we are learning so many things. Now coming back to my question, few leaders are quite strict and few leaders are very calm and composed. So according to Amit sir, what is your best leadership style or what skill do you use to motivate your employees? Because you are very much experienced and we have learned so many things from you. So what is your best way to motivate your juniors or employees? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for asking this question, Renal. Okay. Yes, Amit sir. That's a very interesting question.
Hi. I expressed earlier that, leadership style cannot be a rigid style. If a leadership style is a rigid style, then he's going to fail. He's going to not be able to deliver. He's not being going to be liked by people. Probably the organization will not work like a team. So therefore, a leader has to, what is a leader? A leader is a person who is followed by a lot of people. He leads people. And to lead people, a leader has to be flexible. When he needs to be tough, he is tough. He uses the authority that he is vested with. When he has to get work out of people, he has to motivate people. When he finds that there are people capable of doing the job better than what he can do, he needs to delegate. There are small jobs. He has to free himself so that he looks at the overall picture of the business. And he is able to get a detailed review or a detailed idea of what is happening in the various verticals of the business. So he should keep himself free to see that everything is running fine, because there would be many plans that he has made. There are many plans which are being implemented. What is the progress of the implementation? What are the results of the implementation? And therefore, a leader who is rigid, I personally feel that he is not going to survive. And more so now, with the new generation coming in, the baby boomers coming in, they're not going to listen to an authoritative leader. They would straight away question him, and they have job opportunities. Jobs are not, especially for skilled people and people who have come from good backgrounds and with good education and this thing, they are not going to listen to crap. So I don't think that, any one style is going to work. That's my take on it.
So, very good question, Renal, and thank you so much, Mr. Francis, for answering it. Anyone else, please, from the audience? Anyone else? Mr. Sanjay Sharma. Yeah. Would you like to go live here and ask a question? Commander Vijay?
Okay, may I ask a question from sir?
Please, Sanjeev, please go ahead.
Sir, right, like you said that very important for the leader to be multifaceted, and he has to be really very open and not very rigid in his leadership style. Now, more so, what's happened is that in the past also, that we have seen that the leadership is learned from the superiors who handled the people earlier. So earlier subordinate, now today a leader. So people generally practice what they have learned. So there is a need to really learn the art of leadership, where people need to really, because the question itself, when it came from the earlier participant, when they asked you, uh, when she actually asked about the what leadership style should be there. So I think that understanding is very important, that there is no leadership style. You have to be genuine and you have to have that concern for people, and you need to be direct and more relevant to the changing situation. So I think there is more need for education for the leadership to evolve, because it's not going to come on its own. So what do you like to say on that, sir? Thank you.
Sanjay, that's a good question. You know, leaders, like I said, there are different styles of leadership which management has been able to capture, and they have been able to bring that, studied on that, and they have captured it, and they say that these are the distinct styles of management, and each style is relevant at a particular time, right? If you want to maintain your business, you're doing well, maintaining, you are on the growth path, your product portfolio is okay, your manufacturing bases are all over the country, right? You need to be a stabilizer. You need to basically ensure that, things are running smoothly, efficiently, the high standards are being maintained, there is accountability, there is consistency, and, the leader will have to be that. But rightly said by you, a leadership is a person who is a big influencer. If you're a good leader, then people will respect you. People will imbibe the good things in you. I'll just go back to my own life and my own career. I have been a very keen learner. I've always been observing people, I've been observing my bosses, I've been observing my juniors, my peers, and I have been taking in the good part of theirs and eliminating the bad part. For example, one of the bad, I had a boss who was very nice, very human, but very short tempered. And he liked me, he gave me promotions, but the fear factor did not allow me to get close to him. But I would prefer to be aloof from him, right? And have least interaction with him because of his short temper. So a leader, when he reacts like this, he also demotivates people. So therefore, a leader is a person who is very, very critical in the organization to look after all the resources that he's got, whether it's man, machine, or finance. So I hope, Sanjay, I've been able to. Hello?
Sure, sir. Sure. Actually, no, what I was trying to emphasize was on that no, people need to understand the practicing managers, because I do a lot of no training programs on leadership and management with different companies. So what I find is that the people are not fixed. They are looking at a solution. They are actually looking at some solution that's going to work for them. So I wanted to actually to have your view on that. No, it is not the right perspective with which they are approaching the leadership position role, where they are trying to find a quick fix. It is about a transformational personality. It is about the person who they are. So if they are refined personalities themselves, and they have better understanding of human behavior, and they are multifaceted, and they understand that there cannot be anything fake. You need to be genuine and you need to address the facts all the time, and you cannot run away from those facts. So that is where I felt that, no, because I have worked with many companies, I have seen that the leadership, when it comes to middle management or lower middle management, so finally people have different views about it, and they carry certain role models, which is no, not very good for the retention of manpower in the organizations, for people looking up to them. So it leads to a lot of attrition in companies, because it is very well said that people don't change companies, they change bosses. And that is a big problem in our country today, that somebody getting elevated to a leadership role. Now, if they do not have that understanding and uh, grounding in that role, and they start experimenting when they reach there, so they cause more damage than good to the organization. So my point was that I wanted to have a view, and you very well elaborated on that. People have a right to choose what they want to do. And a very important part for me, which I wanted your view on, is that, how relevant is the training for leadership, where people coming into a leadership role, and if they are prepared to be a leader, and there is more control on educating people in terms of and trying to assess their capability before they're given some leadership roles, which can be more efficient for the organization, and for the people also in the organization. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
I agree with you, Sanjay, that training is a very important part of an organization's structure. It is not only the leader, it is everybody who has to be reskilled, upskilled, and brought to a level next to his current level. And that's only how progression takes place. If you're not, and there are two things, one is that the organization skills you, reskills you, upskills you, and there is something called self upskilling and self initiative. And I fully agree that leadership programs are needed, and leaders need to uh, learn. Learnability is an ongoing process. You uh, keep on learning even till you die. Every day that you spend, you learn something new. And the learnability quotient has to be high in a leader. Otherwise barking instructions and just asking people to follow, then join the army. This is not then this is not the space where you have to be. And training of them is very important. I have no doubts about that.
So thank you, Sanjay, for asking such a brilliant question, and thank you so much, Mr. Francis, for elaborating it. I will now request Renal to convey the vote of thanks on behalf of everyone to Mr. Amit Francis for a wonderful session. And by the time she gets ready for her vote of thanks, let me just quickly summarize whatever Mr. Francis has shared with all of us today. So he talked about some of the dilemmas the leadership is going through, they are having. Things like that leadership is not fully aware sometimes that should I go back to my old philosophy, my old thought process, or should I go and pick up the new skills? This catch 22 situation also becomes quite detrimental for them. Many who have taken that step and initiative have gone ahead and taken the route of learning. And as you just now, Mr. Francis made a point of learning for leadership is more important than just giving directions. So if these people have taken that step, it has really helped them to establish their organization and establishing themselves. He talked about the role of technology and it's becoming integral part of our life in day-to-day life nowadays from there on. Well, things like a very simple thing like making a cup of tea. I'm sorry. So making a cup of tea also is becoming technical in a way. And then people who reside in Mumbai, if you happen to cross Chembur, and if you know the Panditji Chai Wala, the guy has already installed a machine which boils his milk, and he has set a complete process for how much quantity of tea leaf and how much quantity of sugar has to be put in, and for how much time should it be boiled, he has got timers set. So the stuff which is working as per the process, and that is what is bringing down the the quality, the taste, the temperature. Any time of the day, if you travel and be there and have a cup of tea, you will find it same. So he's bringing in that uniformity in the entire thing he's offering just by using technology and the process part of it. If anybody wants to get in touch with the consultant who has helped them, you can get in touch with one of our sponsors, Mr. R. Sharendra Chaurasia, who has been doing that and automating the process of a chaiwala. So that could be funny in the one side, but it is the way forward if you look at it. And so Mr. Francis has already very well built upon the technical aspects. He also talked about what is the ask of the time for the from the leadership. So now over to Renal for conveying her vote of thanks. And thank you so much, Mr. Francis, for such a wonderful session. Renal, over to you for vote of thanks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And thank you all for attending this session and
Please switch on
allowing
your
me to
video.
give.
Please switch on your video, Renal. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
thank you. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Thank you everyone for attending this session and also allowing me to give vote of thanks because I was because I was also not prepared for it. But okay, and I also forward this thing to the people I know and who would like to attend such webinars from experienced person. And I also wish the whole conclave team for more better and successful webinars in future. And thank you so much for the whole session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So look forward to catching up with every one of you once again on Saturday for another wonderful session coming up. This time it is going to be an NLP coach talking about how to create your own success story. It will be a wonderful session. Do join us on the Saturday time. As you already know, it's 2:30 to 3:40. Look forward to be with all of you that time. And thank you so very much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you. Stay safe.
Stay safe and healthy in everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.